We'll bring the county government meeting to order. Here we go.
Is this the hot seat today?
Yes, it is.
Okay, very nice. Thank you. So civil service would like to seek authorization to participate in what the state is newly calling the HELP program. And what the HELP program is the hiring emergency limited placement program. Specifically, it will address the needs of those direct care health and safety titles. The reason it will be speedy for people to be hired is that they will not require testing for a period of 12 months. Employees or candidates would be hired on a non-competitive basis. The state will determine when our program period begins. We will have 12 months after that. At that time, we submit a request to be removed, and all of those people hired under the program become competitive. We definitely think it will help with the hiring, speeding that along, because sometimes it takes at least, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months to get a test, get it graded, and so forth and so on. So we look at this as a real positive way to address those needs in those direct care positions.
So will there eventually be a test, or?
There will never be a test. These are limited to entry-level titles. There will never be a test for those, but they do gain competitive status, so they are certainly eligible for promotional down the road.
Are there the positions that they're hiring for? Do we currently have long waiting lists for them,
Well,
or what is the waiting list like?
It's not really the waiting list as much as we have several provisional employees. So let's just say, for example, we hired someone today. There are dictated times that we can give those tests. So some people won't get a test for a year from now, and they sit in a provisional status. They get trained, and then potentially they could be gone if they're not successful on that test. So this will get that process rolling. The other thing is, many times we give a test, and by the time the grades come out, the department has more vacancies than we can fill through testing. So that will address that piece as well.
These are all entry level?
They're all entry level. We've been compiling information for departments that will be impacted. Once we have approval, we'll go ahead and schedule a big presentation with those departments and let them know these are the titles that we can do. The way this happens is we go to New York State through our resolution process as well. So once I get approval here, I'll do that next step.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, thank you, Paige.
You're all done. Thank you.
Just give me a minute so I can get the other one.
Have a good
Have a minute.
afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Anything you say, Bob?
Yeah, sorry.
Kelly, you're up next. I'll let you get in the seat, but we gotta wait a minute.
Yeah. I stopped in there lunchtime today. This is pretty comfortable. There's nobody working. Only my wife. Yeah, she did come in. Yeah. She came in before I left.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Software?
Yes. Okay. So this NTS software is what runs our board election. And the last time we renewed for 3 years, they didn't offer a 1-year contract. Now they are offering a 1-year contract, and Aaron and I decided that we only wanted to renew for 1 year. Some other software has been approved by New York State, and so it would give us time to look at those and see if NTS is still the best one for us. So we're only asking for a 1-year contract. I'm so sorry I didn't put how much it is up there.
Did you do?
Oh, I did.
Yep.
Oh, there you go. So it would, yeah. And see, we really didn't save a whole lot of money being locked into a 3-year.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you very much.
That's it. I think
That's
it's
all I
great that
have.
you're thinking like that, though, to
Yeah,
jump in for a year with something you don't like.
yeah. They've kind of gotten used to being the only game in town.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Thanks,
See
Kelly.
All right, thank you.
Okay, am I? Well, you're there. Dave, well, it must be up on the board behind me. It says meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
All right. First one is, okay, so,
Yep, I just changed companies because of that.
so our first one is, the backup systems that we use for the towns and villages for shared services. They're currently changing their structure. It was a perpetual license, you know, buy once and you don't have to worry about it. Unfortunately, they're ending support and going like any other company, and they're going subscription based.
There you go.
So.
You found a way to make money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what we did was we vetted out a bunch of other backup softwares. This came coming back to this one. So this is subscription based. We can buy licenses as needed, and they can be it doesn't have to pay for the whole year. We're just trying to make the invoice one time a year, and then we'll bill the towns. So right now it's going to be approximately $72 a year per computer as the towns come on with it. We will be sending out notice to all the towns as soon as we get this passed through. But this is where we're at right now for backups. We got to keep them online, you know, and have some sort of backup program.
So just for clarification, you're staying with the same vendor?
Same vendors, just a
Okay.
different licensing base.
Right, okay. I knew that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry.
All right. We have one more. Yeah, it's that long-winded agreement. Legalese.
There we go.
All right. The next one, I'm looking to upgrade my.
There we go.
It's very good.
Hey, there's something, it's jumping all around. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. So because my administrative assistant currently does a lot of confidential work with all the towns, maintaining agreements, maintaining maintenance contracts, a lot of stuff with inventory. We work with a ton of towns. Since 2018, we've grown shared services exponentially. So I'd like to upgrade her title to assistant to the CTO, with a tiny pay bump up to 60,000 retro back to January 1. It will be testable. We're just taking her out of the union because for what she deals with on a daily basis.
This is all went through HR.
Yes, HR approved it. They were good with it. I talked to Jim in the controller's office. He's okay with it. It's going to be budget neutral for this year, and then next year we'll budget for it. Okay.
I'm good.
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Carry.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris.
Have a good night.
Thanks for recognizing her work.
Okay.
She's
now,
a great employee.
Suzette,
Oh, yeah.
you're up next. Now, listen. Well, you see, we've been moving along very smoothly here.
So that means we have more time.
And I know Chris is coming, so when Chris gets up here,
Move along smoothly with this.
I'm just asking. We're on a flow here, so.
But we do have another hour to this
I know,
meeting,
I know.
so-
Yeah. Oh, what do you tell them? We got time to go.
Take my time.
Exactly.
Thanks,
I
Cal.
plan to.
I have to be here.
So I do have two resolution requests and they go along with each other. The one is to add an addendum to an agreement that we currently have with Gar Associates for valuation services that we use them for reevaluation projects that we're working on. And this would be to basically extend the agreement that we currently have with them, which covers both the town of Ankrum and the town of Stockport. And Stockport, the town board did vote to extend, to not complete their reval for this year for 2023, but to have it completed for the 2024 assessment goal. So in doing that, we had to do this addendum for this service. And the amount is $12,000. And it is budgeted, although money will have to be
moved around. It's basically 6 out of this year's budget and 6 out of next year's budget. And the other resolution.
Do that one.
We're doing one first, right?
Yeah.
First, okay. Any other questions? Any motion? Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the other one just goes along with that to amend our original agreement with the town of Stockport to complete their revaluation
I'll move
in
that.
2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And let's see, I think there was other things I had to.
You've got lots of, hey, we got lots of time. Go ahead.
Got a lot of folders there.
I know, well, I brought them in case
I
there
know,
were
I go.
questions, so I have everything here.
That's it.
That's it? Seriously?
That is it for this month. Next month, I'm planning to
Okay.
come with some.
Chris, some cages, you're up.
Well, we-
Since it is a Stockport,
That's what I next month.
I said it was-
That's what I was doing, the veterans or firefighters.
Firefighters.
Firefighters next month. Okay, both of those. Thank you.
You said it.
All for you.
All right, I'm just gonna take 2 seconds, if it's okay. Here's Phil Geller, he's got Phil Geller's got a little bit of a presentation
Yep.
about one of the tax sales. I'm in favor of everything that Phil's gonna say, so.
Okay.
I didn't know what he was gonna say.
Because I've already talked to him about it.
And I've already talked about it.
Go ahead, Phil, you can say anything you want.
That's right. Chris is gonna agree with you.
It's surprising even to me when I think about it, but for over 50 years, I've been purchasing property to the county tax sale. And going back all those years, if you were not the successful bidder and you left your money in, they were then awarded to the second bidder. In 1985, Thomas Leone was the first bidder for property on Hennett Road. There is no record of the property then being conveyed to him. According to my records, we were the second bidder and we started paying taxes on that property. Unfortunately, I have no record of having a deed being filed. And our office slipped up and never followed through that the deed was never filed. But the county has always, in all those years, if a property was not awarded to somebody or sold, they would then have it on the next tax sale. There's no record after 85 of ever being sold to somebody else. So I think that's pretty good proof that the property was awarded to me. On the taxes, both the old records and the new records, as far as they could go, they show that I've been paying taxes for close to 40 years. I would like the county to issue a deed for the property. Of course, if they wanted to refund all the taxes, I have no problem with that. That would far exceed the value of the property.
Do we have a sketch here where it is off of Hennett Road? I don't know if it's up there. You can see it, but basically it's just a square piece of land. You've had it, what?
Yeah.
Bill, it's like a piece of small land, just been
It's a
sitting there
small
forever.
land, not buildable, but a stream going through.
It's
the
like half an acre.
And you will concur that taxes have been paid?
Yes, taxes are current, they've been paid by the entire time, I think
Yeah,
actually that
we have
might
record
be
of
the handout as well. And I will also, we changed the policy when I came into office that we no longer give the deeds to the people that are bidding, because we've had a few instances like this where we give them the deed and then they, for whatever reason, the deed will go missing or wouldn't be recorded. So that policy did change. Now we record all the deeds, but this one was so long ago. There's no record of it. There's never been another deed coming out. There's never, I mean, we just don't have any record. And we looked for some kind of resolution that would have authorized this sale, and there wasn't one in Phil's name. So that's the only reason that's the only thing I can say that would be a negative. But I think, based upon everything that Phil's telling us, I believe that we should just put a deed on record into him.
So I know there's some timing issues when we sell it today, that owner has to have it for a period of time before they can get clear title to it. Does that start from now or?
That's the
I got a
beautiful
question.
thing. That's the title insurance company's problem.
Okay, all right, okay.
But if we're acknowledging that he's paid taxes for this period of time, wouldn't it more or less start from the time he started paying taxes?
I would not make that argument.
Yeah,
I would make the argument we're gonna rely on
Start
his
now.
title company to make
Okay.
that decision, and I don't want to be in the middle of that one.
Okay.
But the
I
reality.
didn't know if that
is
mattered in how we filed the deed.
It would, no, it would be a tax sale deed, just like it would on any of the other ones.
Right.
And the deed would be given now, so if this title company is gonna swap about that, then.
They have to do that.
Phil's gotta
Right.
make that argument.
And you're willing to take that risk?
We know nobody else has been paying taxes on this property
Not on this
too.
property.
Right,
Does
because
that
I have
happen?
pretty good proof of that.
I could just like clarify the facts. So you've been paying taxes on this property for over 35 years.
35.
And the county believes it's likely or believes that you purchased the property at auction as the second bidder, but we just don't have the paperwork
Correct.
to demonstrate that. But we think like there's enough surrounding facts to think that that's likely. And so this is really an effort to correct, to assume that those facts are true and then correct the
That
paperwork.
is correct.
Is that right?
I agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
So was there money at the time of sale? And can we verify that that money was paid?
That's a great question. No, I cannot verify that it was paid, and I don't know. And, I asked Phil if he had any proof of that, and he doesn't.
I don't have records going back, but I would assume that I would not have started paying taxes if I had not.
Did you get a tax bill every year?
Yes,
Yep, I got a copy right here.
I paid it
Somebody
every
get
year,
something.
every year for almost 40 years.
And I'll also say back then, those parcels were probably selling.
I was gonna say nickels on the dollar, right?
$50 or something like that. They
Yeah.
weren't valuable
Half acre.
parcels at all.
It's just half acre, no buildings on it, right?
What's their record?
Not
What's the
building.
It's actually swampland, you said.
Not a buildable
And
Yeah.
where is it located?
on Hennett Road,
I know Kennett Road, but Kennett Road where?
right next to what used to be owned by David Knoll.
In what town?
It's town of Kendall.
Kennett, okay.
And it's, the stream that you see bisecting it, is now overrun by beavers. So,
Motion.
Well, I don't know. I think we know. We have to go,
I'll let you just.
we just wanted Phil to talk and then we're gonna talk to Chris.
Yeah, and then if it ends up being that you decide that, I should do the deed, then I'll bring a resolution or a resolution for full board and, or I'll send it to Kelly and then I'll do the deed after that's been passed.
Phil says we can always send him back in tax money. Keep the half acre land. I know PJ's giving me the absolutely nothing.
No maxes.
Money only goes one way.
Yeah, I know that with the county.
I'd love that.
Anything else from the board from Phil? Okay, Phil, thank you very much. for the
Thank you very
presentation.
much.
Appreciate it. I think he does. For other stuff, I'm not sure. I got it, whatever our attorney consolidation.
Hang on here.
I think the rest of the, things we want to discuss are probably for executive session. There's, foreclosure updates and that's litigation. And then there's another,
I'll make a motion to go to executive session.
Wait a minute, before we do that, can we make a motion on what Phil just presented us? Does that want to go?
well,
to executive?
really, this is also a matter that's.
Okay,
litigation.
just say it.
We should talk about that in
Okay,
executive
that's
session as
fine.
well, and then come back out and make that motion if you want to.
So we had a
I got a
motion.
motion to go into executive
I
session
got a
for
second.
litigation.
Ricky.
Okay, so, does anybody want to, make a proposal for a resolution to sell property that Phil Gellert's been paying taxes on?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
And I'll work on that resolution before, tomorrow. And then I'm also asking for a resolution, to provide dumpster and tipping fees for the town of Greenport.
I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, carried.
All right, that's gonna take some time tomorrow. I should be in good shape, and that's all I have.
Anybody have any questions for Chris? I have to get in touch with you, though. We have to talk about Montana, just let you know that.
That's
Something's
not on-
coming. I know it's not on the agenda. We'll talk privately.
Want to go back into executive session?
Where the old buildings.
Well, we have anything, anybody from the public want to say anything? Nope. All in favor?
Is there enough vacant land there?
Thanks, Chris. You can call the Public Works meeting to order. Up first, we have Tony with Highway, I guess.
Yes, please. We have.
Quick and easy.
Oh, okay.
All right. For work schedule, crews are still, well, at the moment, but been working up a solid waste project. Still cutting trees, and now, of course, we're doing we got quite a bit of storm
Some of the
damage.
other trees came down.
Yeah, yeah, just a few. So we'll be doing that. Snow and ice control, obviously. We made out pretty good in the storm. And currently all of our county roads are open, so.
Great.
Personnel update. We hired one part-time laborer. That was the after-hours watchman position that had been open for quite a while, which was good. However, I did have one that said this is his last week, so we're right back to where we were. Whatever.
Revolving door.
Revolving door. Yeah, I figured it would be eventually. This is the one that retired a few years back and then came
Okay.
back. And I did have one employee on extended sick leave, but he actually was able to come back a month early. He was cleared late last week, so he actually is back to work now. As you know, we rebid pavement marking, and we received no bids for that. So we had a couple people reach out to us, wanted the bids, and we sent them out, and we received none. So we're going to hold off for now and see if there's a bid that we can piggyback off of to see where Greene County is at, and then go from there. We don't usually start striping until May or June anyway, so we have a little bit of time. I just have one resolution request. And it's to award the bid for motor oil and lubricants to Brentag Lubricants LLC of Manchester, New Hampshire.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Tony, I have one thing to ask you.
Yep.
On the roadsides.
Yep.
So I met with Niner today to come up to do an evaluation in town.
Mhm.
And they were talking about the new signs, the new material for the
Yep.
new signs, road signs and everything that they came out with here a while back, the government did. So when we're doing signs, when you guys are making them, are we building them to the newest spec there
Yes.
is?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
are.
they're constantly checking the most updated specs,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
yeah. And as we replace any damaged signs that we
You're
have.
using
we-
the new
we-
material, whatever.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
all right.
But they'd like you to go to change them all right now, but.
Well, they were talking to
Right.
me about that.
Yeah.
And I says, well, they asked us, well, did we buy them online or do we guys know we get them in at the county? And I know
Yeah.
you guys are on top of it.
Yeah, the last couple of years, what we've done too, with a couple of the roads that we redid,
Right.
we included that right in the project itself, and paid for it with the chips. So we just re-signed the entire road. So then the new road, so then the road's done. We start with the drainage, we do the shoulders, we do whatever reconstruction, pave it, and then we did all the signs. So the roads, and yeah, it's always done right up to the latest specs. Okay. Yeah, Trevor and Emo are pretty good at that.
No, I know that.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks.
So you have to go through and re-sign everything, to replace.
Yeah, well,
everything.
we had a bunch of signs made and that was they happened to see it, the guy was
Yeah,
there. And he
yeah.
said, these are newest stuff. I'm like, yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
They're new.
They actually have a machine, a little thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That you can put on the sign.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's pretty expensive. I don't think you guys.
I think I like to think we actually have something that can tell a reflectivity of the sign.
Okay.
I'll have to double check with the sign shop or
Yeah.
Chris, but I feel like we were able to check that
Because
because
he asked us, there was a number that he said, did you guys,
Yeah.
yes, we don't have that machine.
Yep.
Right. I mean, if NYMER comes out that the different towns, that may be something that they're
Yeah.
starting to talk about, so. Be aware of
Yeah,
it.
they're coming to my town next week, so let me know about that.
Hey, guys.
No, I know, yeah, I've dealt with it before. but-
Tony, I want to offer your crews a compliment. I was on Crow Hill last night on County 7 about 10:30 at night. That road was clean and that was nasty up there, so you guys did excellent work.
Yeah, they put in quite a few hours. we were actually able to release, some of the crews down this way. Kinderhook, Livingston, and both Hudson crews actually went home at 4 yesterday afternoon, and then ended up having to come back in when the snow picked back up. But the Lebanon, Ghent, and Cope crews were right out through, and they never got to go home yesterday afternoon.
Good job.
Yeah, and we'll pass that along.
No other questions for Tony? We'll move on to solid waste.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, Joe. Hey, how are you? Good. Projects we're working on, bootstrap program. We've had few adjustments that's had to be made to the digester in the software. We hope to have it worked out by next week. We're going to be pushing back our kickoff to the program to the end of April, preferably around Earth Day. We think it'll be good timing, and by then we hope to have the paving done at the Greenport station. So that day we'd like to invite supervisors up when we plan it, and anybody from the Climate Smart community to see the digester in action and see what it does. Compactor installation, due to the weather, it was held off, but we did get it installed on Monday, I believe. We're still looking to relocate over the office and put the hydraulic unit in. So hopefully the weather cooperates in the next week or two, we can get that done. Household Hazardous Waste Day is coming up very quickly. April 29th, flyers have gone out. It's on the website. All the approvals are in place. So just pass the word on. RFP for the recycling. We did open it on March 1st. We only had one bidder, and that's Casella Recycling. We are trying to set up a meeting with them now to discuss their proposal and should have something next month. I do have one addition before we do the resolutions, just a real quick note. We did receive some notification from our contractor who had the bags. And we're able to get the bags. We're just going to put it out there for you. And on another note, we would like to mention that one of the stations has counterfeit tags that are being circulated, and our attendant did catch it. So it is an issue out there. So if you
Somebody learned how to do it.
Somebody learned how to do it. So if you would like us to pursue the bags for the next meeting and have some prices and samples, we will be happy to do that. Okay?
The dollar bags are great. We love them.
They love them.
Yeah. Very sturdy.
Yep.
Well, let's streamline it like we did with the tags or
Yes,
something. And
there
make them
won't be
match
5
the-
size bags. We will just keep it simple, but for next month, then we will have samples for you, prices and, okay, great. Okay.
Some people love the bag.
They do love the bags. So,
That was awesome.
In unsolicited advice from some of the Chatham guys, I fully support the bags.
a lot of people miss the bags. And, you know, these are the same people that complain that it polluted the environment.
Yep.
So, and on that note, resolution request that I have before you.
Paper bag.
I thought people would use paper bags. Go ahead, put the sticker on a paper bag and see how that works for you.
They missed their plastic.
Yeah.
So resolution request, permission to purchase one John Deere Z930M commercial Z-Track mower with string trimmer. And that's off state contract, and it's not to exceed 12,500. It is a budgeted item.
Yeah, originally, yeah, they extended, but can you imagine the extension was like $2,800 or something?
Yeah.
25.
For 3 years.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy
Yeah.
amount.
I support this one, yeah.
Well, Jean made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second.
Motion in a second, all in favor?
Aye.
We should charge $150 an hour just to look at that.
It's got a warranty on it.
The next one is permission for the chairman of the board of supervisors to enter into a contract with Bill Baldwin and Sons to haul out leachate removed from our county-owned landfills. Whereas this is a requirement of the DEC, and it's at 15 cents a gallon for a 2-year time frame.
What's leachate?
Leachate is a product of the
Ooze.
landfill. This is out.
How much are we producing per month?
It has gone down significantly. The landfills are over 25 years old now. So it's a third of what we were producing. In the
This was
beginning.
bid, right?
Yeah, it's all-
And what do they do with the
Every year.
It's taken to the city of Hudson, or water
Wastewater
treatment.
treatment.
Yeah.
Move it.
Second it.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
And I'm not sure about the last one because we didn't have point one yesterday.
No, keep going.
Oh, keep
Yep.
going?
Yep.
Okay, authorization to fill one part-time laborer's
Move it.
position.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's all I have.
Do you have any MEL openings right now?
Yeah, which whatever.
Tony, do you have any MEL too?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leachate, yeah, is it radioactive? That's the next question.
Let's see, up next we have engineering. Ray's getting quicker.
No, Brian, wait, hold on a minute. Brian volunteered to go last.
Oh, okay, is that what it was?
I was wondering what happened.
Well,
There must be something up.
Hey, Ray, he paid me. And I'm supposed to go last. No, okay.
We're gonna get hit.
You're in no hurry to go home?
And there's only one little yellow sticky note there too.
Yeah, big one.
And mine is actually fairly quick this month. I actually had to pull about 4 resolutions, just unfortunately I wasn't able to get contracts together from consultants and so forth, so.
But you want a special before the next full board meeting yet, right?
Correct, yeah,
For
we
the-
still
for
need it
just one.
just for the one. So regarding our bridge programs, so for Valley View Bridge, again, bids are due tomorrow at 10 a.m. So far, we've had 11 plan holders that have picked up sets, so we're hoping to get a good reply on that particular project. And again, I am requesting to have that DPW committee meeting prior to the full board. So anticipate getting those bids tomorrow, having the consultant take a look at those, review those bids, tabulate them, and get a recommendation to me, so that way I can prepare a resolution for that meeting. Okay. Stuyvesant Falls Bridge, awaiting a revised scope. I did receive a scope and fee schedule from Clough Harbor and Associates. However, I did not feel that they provided enough depth as far as the SHPO review. Again, understanding the historic nature of that bridge, understanding that there was a very deep review that was done the last time that there was a rehab done on it. So I made them go back, and unfortunately they didn't get that back to me, but I fully expect to have that within the next week. That'll come onto the April meeting. Mill Hill, we received 6 bids from consultants. The low bidder was from New Jersey. While there's nothing wrong with that, again, we're just not as familiar with that particular consultant, so we're doing a little more in-depth background review of their work and so forth. They were approximately $5,000 to $6,000 cheaper than the next. So again, we are reviewing all of them, and I should have that recommendation to the committee for next month, and I will have a bid tabulation like I did with the other projects as well. Greenport Transfer Station, working with actually 2 vendors now to finalize quotes on a mobile office building or modular. My apologies, it's not a mobile, it's actually a modular unit, and that's my fault. So just over 1,300 square feet, 24 by 56. Looking at the pricing right now, pricing range is coming in about $190,000.
190,000.
For 1,300 square feet. Now, although that may seem high, when you compare that
What
to
was our
stick-
construction cost?
Right, when you look at stick building, when we were building a 800 square foot unit, we were paying $440 a square foot. We're able to come in at $190 a square foot with this building.
So this
Again,
got heat, I presume?
yeah, it has heat, electric's already done.
Right.
All of the telephones are already done.
It's $140 a square foot. That's,
Yeah, but we will need to go ahead and we'll need to put in a pad, we'll need to
Yeah, it's
run
not done.
electric and so forth. So
well,
I'll
what's
have
construction costs? You know,
all
I
of those
mean,
costs. But
you're,
again, comparatively speaking, $190 a square foot versus
Right.
440. So yes, it does seem high, but we're getting more square footage. And it's going to be
Little
more
better.
useful. Yeah, it's going to be more useful as far as the intended.
Pretty
use.
steep roof pitch on it, good roof pitch.
No, it actually has a very shallow. They're metal roofs and they're going to have a fairly shallow roof pitch to it.
I think we only have 1 bid on that.
construction.
Correct, but I talked to,
Which was ridiculous. I mean, $440 is ridiculous price.
Well, they got the prevailing wage.
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
yeah, prevailing wage.
So do we have to build this with prevailing wage? Like the people who are building
This
it,
is
how does that
engineered,
work?
this is engineered product.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
actually, we're working with two vendors. Both of them indicated that they're on state bid. All right, so if they're on state
Yeah,
bid,
that's-
we would just need to negotiate with one of them and go with. Yeah, so I'm just trying to get confirmation about the state bid. But yeah, we would not have to formally bid if they're on state bid, okay, or if we can piggyback on someone else's bid. But I did speak with two other contractors that did not bid on it. And they did not bid on it because of their own schedule. They were not going to be able to come in. They just had some several large projects, but they actually said that that was not that far off.
$400. Can I resign from my position?
Yeah, start building for the county.
I know, I think I asked you, that's.
But I mean, if you're,
$400.
HVAC?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
but you're gonna be at 275 a square foot or something. I mean, you know.
Yeah, you may be, yeah, but somewhere out there, you're gonna get a lot better.
Their bathroom and kitchen in there? There's a bathroom and a kitchenette. Correct. Yeah, for the next meeting, I'll provide the specs and a quick layout of it. DPW, we were hoping to get that roof started this past Monday, but again, because of weather, they were unable to do so. All the materials are on site for that. But they plan on mobilizing equipment this Friday and then starting up this upcoming Monday. If all goes well and if weather holds and we don't get any more snow, because next week is the beginning of spring, let's keep that in mind. They anticipate it'll be about 2.5 weeks to get that completed. Once that's done, they're going to jump right on to installing the racks for the solar array.
Right. They said all that material was here, ready to go too, so.
That is
All their stuff.
as far as the racks, they still have to deliver some of the racks. The panels are what they're trying to get a hold of. Panels are an issue.
Okay.
What was the warranty on that roof? 20 years.
That's with solar on it.
Correct.
Will you get more out of that? I mean, it was 20 about where you're at.
With that thickness, 20 is the maximum.
Okay.
You could go to a thicker membrane and bring it up to 25. Actually, the solar panels help a little bit. Because there are a couple things. They're going to be putting scrim sheet. They're going to be getting shading, so it's not direct sunlight constantly breaking down the material. So if all goes well, we keep our fingers crossed. But I would expect that we're actually should be getting at least one. Yeah, at least one.
Tony says he's not gonna be here then. Whatever that is, 20, 25, you know.
Not for me.
Right.
We will need a bit.
That's right.
Yeah. Public safety building, the new cooling tower. So that's scheduled to be installed tomorrow. They arrived on site today. They were doing some electrical work. Tomorrow will be the installation. So they'll actually deliver it, set the new one, take the old one off site, and then make final connections. Terminal apron pavement bids were received and submitted to the FAA. So again, if you remember at the full board, that was done at the finance committee. So I was trying to move that along. Because of the cost came in well within budget, FAA wanted us to push that project along for funding purposes. So that's the reason it did not come before the DPW. They anticipate that they should be able to turn that around quickly, which in FAA terms means 2 months. So we'll see how that goes. Space utilization, the space utilization committee had met. I had received comments back on the questionnaire that I had prepared. So it's a 6-page questionnaire that'll be going out to the department heads for 610, 401, and 325. As far as those departments to take a look to see how they're actually operating, what their needs are, keeping in mind the thought processes once we get that information back, to then see which offices make sense to try to combine into various buildings, whether that be new buildings or what have you. As part of that, once that goes out on Friday, we're actually going to be meeting with the department head meeting. There's several items on the docket. I'm asking those department heads to stay for the latter part of that meeting, so that way I can review the questionnaire with them. I'll provide them an electronic copy, so that way they can go ahead and take about 3 weeks to a month to go ahead and fill it in. We'll convene as the space utilization committee, and then we could even, review them and even have an interview with some of the departments if we need to. Okay. I'm still waiting for one price from a second architect regarding compiling the facilities reports and so forth. I did receive one last week. However, I'm still waiting for the second. Labella I did receive. Yes, I did receive it from Labella. I'm still waiting for CPO. All right. So again, once that comes in, I hope to have that for next month as well. Regarding resolutions, I just have one resolution. It's a general resolution regarding utility easement on county lands located off of County Route 31. So I was approached by the Eagers who own the farm up onto the hill. They want to run fiber up to their land and up to their operation. The most direct route actually goes through and along a county-owned piece of land. This county-owned piece of land is only about 40 feet wide that goes straight up the hill. Right. Not sure why it was purchased. Maybe it had to do with this, cell towers or whatever way back when. Yeah. But right now he wanted to even look at purchasing the property, but he doesn't want to get moving on the project. So I told him in the interim, understanding that if we were to sell the property back to him, that we would have to go through an appraisal process, a legal process. That's going to take several months. He's okay if we just move forward with the utility.
I'll second it.
The motion is second.
Something for the effort?
He's actually going to survey that plan, so that way we have a survey and an as-built after he's done.
The motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Questions for Ray? I thought the space utilization survey was very good, so we look forward to getting some response from department heads.
Yeah, get some good feedback.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
And last but not least, we have facilities. We saved the best for last, is what it was.
Great boss, more than half of what I was gonna talk about.
Just say whatever he said, right? You know?
Well, did you earlier, right? I tied him up so he couldn't get his agenda in, so that's why I'm gonna go.
Go ahead, Brian, give it all you got.
Yeah. All right. Normal, routine maintenance. Like right now, we're just waiting on the fence company to install a fence on Warren Street, separating one of the buildings between 560, where we had a incident with Centrica. We moved the old iron fence and thing weighed about 800 pounds and it crashed into a window. They had to replace it, wasn't us. So we're going with something a little more lighter with a door, so we have access to the gangway. See here at the jail, we're getting pricing on grease traps. We believe we have a hole in ours right now, so I'm looking at replacing that. As Ray stated, the cooling tower, so the electrician was there, they unhooked everything, and then they plan on, he's hoping to be out of there, swapping it out tomorrow, and then they'll start really piping it and getting everything ready, so it might be up and ready to go next week. See here, repaired a couple toilets that were leaking at Soil and Water. Here we had a little issue with the roof here at 401, but it's been patched and it's held through this, so I'm confident that we're all set.
Any issues with anything with that roof coming in?
No, we had a little minor plaster fell, but everything came out great. So, and I actually had a clog on the leg 8 pump, so we pulled it and cleaned it. So the water and sewer line's up and running again.
That's the one we just installed.
Yeah.
How did we clog it?
That one, I think it wasn't nothing. Rags, I believe it was like a little bit of grease mixed in with some stuff, made it all the way down to Dutch.
That's what I'm surprised when you mentioned leg 8.
Yeah.
I would not have expected that.
That's what I
That's
was.
the last pump station.
Yeah.
Usually any clogging or any issues
would be 2.
The first one up by the sewer plant.
The Stewart's tied in. They're frying the egg nuggets.
They have a grease trap though.
Yeah.
They do have a very large, I think it's a 2,000-gallon
Yeah.
grease trap
Yep.
in their facilities buried on the site.
They go through a lot of water though, too. So aren't they still
Yes,
doing
they
that? Yeah.
Yeah, Stewart's was. Yeah, that, for the past month and a half, I've been working with, again, they had some issues with water. And, trying to find out, you know, they were concerned at the pricing. But they had a lot of leaks going on and, you know, it cost them almost $68,000 last year. So they had pumps and toilets. So they're taking care of it. I spoke with, Jim from Greenport. So I think, cause he was coming to me saying we have a leak somewhere and I'm like, well, no one's complaining. So I went out there and I'm metering it like month to month and just tracking it. So I was out there the last month and, the first month they used 700,000 and now they're down to 500,000 gallons, but that's with this pump that was just pouring water out there. They were waiting to get fixed. So I said, you guys fixed the problem. So, other than that, personnel update, one employee out on workman's comp, one employee out on FMLE that just returned, and I had 4 employees out on COVID leave. So, but you know, that one brief stint, I think everyone's it's being clear. No, the last I asked the gentleman that was there, and I guess they're working with Jamie McCagg.
Jamie McCann.
Yes. So, and I didn't want to get into it, you know. So I was like, okay.
You haven't had any issues?
Because I explained to him, I said, just make sure whoever's flushing,
You haven't had any issues with?
Oh no, there's always stuff in that pit, but
Not to the point of clogging.
like I said, I
clogging.
think these pumps are really, like I said, this is the second time we've had to pull a pump. So I think the first one I think was out at Lake 2, and that was grease. So like so far they are working. So.
On another note, Brian, a couple of years ago, when you talked about fencing, a couple of years ago, you and I looked at the fencing around the 560 parking lot there, where the farmer's market is, and you were talking about trying to get rid of the chain link.
Yeah.
Go a guardrail type thing. Do we ever explore? Could we do that?
That's why, I was gonna talk with Ray at one point. I was thinking, like maybe box beam.
Right, like the next parking lot down that the city has. I mean, that's just got kind of a box beam, thing, but.
Because that fence is just awful. So we plow it and there's nothing you can do to not damage it.
It catches a lot of debris though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe we get back to looking at that to see
Okay.
if we could redo that.
Yep.
Yeah, now that Ray's around, we could ask him to get involved. He doesn't have anything else to do,
One more thing, huh, Ray?
But I came by the other day and, I saw that fence and then the city's parking lot, so I have to assume that might be more.
Well, I know, because of there's no curbing there. I think I was looking up until like the part. It's hard
Yeah, I
to
remember
say,
you and I talked
there's
about
really
the
no
code.
parking lot. There's not. But I think you needed something to stop it. But I don't want to use those parking stops because they get in the way, and plus my guys will just plow it right. Trying to pack it in.
Right.
So they're actually more of a hazard half the time. So, but no, I definitely would like to
I
do
think that was a pre-COVID thing when they out there talked about years ago.
Yeah.
But if you're getting those pumps clogged with grease, that's gotta be coming from somewhere. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we put this line in to be less issues, Any idea where you think it's coming from?
The only really would be the nursing home.
That's exactly what I
there's
was
really
just
no
gonna say.
kitchen
Right.
on that.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
I mean,
It's gotta be coming from that. There's no one else
Do
that,
they have a grease trap set up there?
they have internal grease traps.
Not
not a very large outdoor.
That could be getting past all that.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
So I just, we don't want to keep more expense ripping the stuff apart every time.
Like I said, though, so far, it's only been 2 times we've had to pull the pumps. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
you know,
after
so
being in a
after being
little over a
a little
year.
over a year, so.
I think the first one happened.
It
within
was,
the first
yeah, it was like
quarter.
almost, yeah, it was pretty quick.
So this new, the pit, the grinder pit they're putting in, would that make any change at all?
Not, well, as far as the rags.
No,
yes.
I know, but
Yeah.
not to do
Not
with
with the
grease.
grease.
Not with the grease,
No.
but we do have, we are having, Jamie McCag come in, and out of pump number two, every quarter, he's been pumping that grease out of that particular location.
So we're getting, so we're still,
So I don't know if this may have somehow worked its way after he last pumped. Because if he pumped it down too far,
then,
it could have then traveled
Yeah.
downstream. So,
just don't wanna wind up with pumping bills, you know what I'm saying?
oh, understood,
You
yeah,
know,
agreed.
We have the ability to share those costs now, so.
But even at that, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
We
like
don't
Rick
want
said,
it,
the only one we're really pumping, focusing on is number two, the main, the main source, so. Cause that, I mean, there is stuff on, as it works its way down, but
Right.
that's the main.
Right. I know.
Yeah, so.
And we're gonna start one final one on Granite, is that?
Correct. Correct, yeah, so those plans were submitted to EFC, so that way we can get the change order approved. So they've already approved the general amount.
Nice.
I received the quotes from the contractors as well as the design plans, that's all for EFC for final approval, so we can actually have the contractors order and start construction.
We're gonna do a generator there too, right?
Yes, there's a
Okay.
generator there as well.
All right, any other questions for Brian? About questions from the public?
Have videos and nothing but pain.
What's that?
No public.
No public.
Nothing but pain.
I never know if they're on the machine there or not, you know.
Oh, yeah, no, they wouldn't be able to, no, it's
Right.
not live streamed, it's just,
They could email you questions, so.
no,
No,
it's
I
not
can't
live
do
streamed.
that. Okay.
No.
Well, if nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
You said.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everybody. Welcome to the public hearing on county transportation. Just because this isn't like legally required, do we need to like read that full formal document?
No.
No, okay, all right, great. So thanks a lot for coming. I'm just gonna give like a quick sort of intro about where we're at on transportation, and then I'll open it up to the floor for comments. So we have this presentation behind me. So first off, I'm Michael Schmidis. I'm chair of the Transportation Committee. And then next slide. So the Transportation Committee has been working on a county transportation report. And the report is available on our website. You can see the link below. And then I have a few slides upcoming that are just sort of summarizing some of what I see as sort of highlights from the report. So next slide. So this is the committee that worked on it. We have a few of us are here. Claire Pardee, the director for the Healthcare Consortium, James Funk from the Columbia County Healthcare Consortium, and Ray Jerkowski from the County Engineers. Thank you so much for your contributions on the report to date. And then, as you can see, a bunch of other of us have sort of worked on this draft report to get us where we are. So next slide. The report builds on a couple current documents that we already have. So the county has an official Columbia County Transportation Coordination Plan. This is our transportation plan that is approved by the DOT. Every county has these transportation plans. So the county has this plan, and what the report did is it sort of evaluated the progress on this plan and then updated some of these documents with the idea that we do this sort of interim report, we do these public hearings, and then from those two things, we sort of dive back in, and then ultimately we'll issue an updated coordination plan for 2023. And then that document, the coordination plan, is really, it both sets up the county's goals for how we want to deal with transportation. It's a planning document, so everybody can sort of look at it and see what's happening. And then also, in order to sort of get state and federal funds, it's really helpful to have these coordination plans because a lot of state and federal funds are tied to the official approved plan. So if we name new goals and to come up with new ambitious ideas, it'll actually be easier for us to get those funding once we have it in a plan. So there's some opportunities to sort of come up with some new exciting ideas. It actually might be easier to get funding from doing that. So next slide. I also wanted to highlight a couple other sort of plans that are out there or reports. So one is from the Columbia Green Workforce Local Plan. So that's like the Workforce Development Agency sort of did an analysis on like what's some of the gaps around workforce development. And one piece they highlighted for public transportation states, the lack of public transportation in our rural area is always an issue that limits not only access to the career center, but also access to other workforce preparation services and job opportunities for many of our most in-need residents. So we know that things like workforce development really do depend on public transportation and other transportation services. So next slide. This is from the county did a housing needs assessment in 2017, and then also found that transportation is sort of linked to the need for affordable housing. It writes, families who once rented homes and apartments near the urban centers, presumably they're talking about Hudson, have been forced to move further out into the country. And I assume that means parts of the county that are not Hudson, where they face transportation issues back to major centers of employment and to schools. So we know we sort of seen this, a lot of people leaving Hudson to other parts of the county, but then a lot of the services or the jobs are either in Hudson and Greenport. So we know that we have this gap where we haven't filled transportation in to sort of meet these sort of changing demographics shifts in the county. So next slide. So one of the things that we did is just sort of do like a landscape analysis of transportation. And what we found is that county public transportation serves over 30,000 riders per year. We saw a pretty significant dip at the start of the pandemic. And then last year, we started to see some of those numbers increase. And then we also have a bunch of transportation services that are outside of public transportation that are run by agencies that do point-to-point services. And those actually provide for over 40,000 trips per year. So actually the non-public transportation services are actually a larger part of our transportation footprint than public transit. In the report, you can sort of see like a larger breakdown of both public transportation and other transportation. So this is a graph of the different public transportation routes by year. And so you can see that the shopping shuttle route is by far the most used public transportation route out of the public transportation routes. And we also saw, sort of as I was describing, like an increase in 2022, where actually the riders on the shopping shuttle not only increased over the pandemic years, but it was bigger than 18 and 19 as well last year. So we're starting to see like a larger uptake on that one route, while the other routes have sort of more leveled off. Next slide. So yeah, more than just public transportation. Here's a list of all the other of the agencies that we talked about in the report that are providing transportation services beyond public transportation. So a lot of different services, both county government services and private services, are providing really important transportation services. Next slide. We also did a whole bunch of sort of demographic analysis with the idea that sort of understanding where people live in the county might give us a clue about where to provide services. So we looked at households that don't have vehicles, which are the ones that had the most density, were Hudson, Kinderhook, and Livingston. We looked at the towns that have the highest density, like the most people per mile, and Hudson by far was the most dense place, followed by Kinderhook, Greenport, and Stockport. And the other thing that we found was that residents over 60 are the primary public transportation users. And then coupled with that, there's a projection that the over 70 population is really going to significantly increase over 10 years. So we find that the biggest users are seniors, and then we're expecting a real huge increase in seniors over the next 10 years. So it's likely that we'll have significant needs for transportation over the next 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, you'll be entering. You're going to be. Some of us in this room might be entering into that phase.
Yeah.
We also just mapped a bunch of points of interest. So we had like schools, libraries, major employers, major housing. So in the report, there's a link to this map, and you can turn off and on the layers. But it also gives us some clues about. It makes sense that a lot of people would want transportation to or from some of these like major dots. And so there's also an opportunity that we didn't necessarily get all of them. So I'd love some comments around like, hey, you forgot to add this, and we can sort of add that to the map. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that the 2017 Columbia County Transportation Coordination Plan identifies staffing as one of the goals. So a lot of counties like Greene County have a mobility manager, like a staff person who's sort of responsible for thinking about transportation. And the county has not done this. And the county doesn't have any staff member whose like a big portion of their job is to think about transportation. And so we have a lot of staff that make time for making this happen. People like Kelly, thanks for being here. So we have a bunch of staff who are really dedicated to who sort of do it as it's not even part. I think it's like not even part of their job description. It maybe is like somewhat attached, where like the purchasing department or the controller's office does a lot of work for transportation, because transportation has a financial angle to it. But there's nobody who's like thinking about like whose job it is to be like, how do we provide really excellent services for needs? So it's a lot of people who sort of like finding time to do it in addition to their busy lives. So it's great that we have such dedicated staff, but it just it's not the same as having a staff member who's like thinking about both the public transportation side and the non-public transportation side. And so I think we would gain a lot from that. And there's only so far I think we can go until we have dedicated staff. And we've had a lot of gaps because of that. We had like several years in a row where we didn't properly apply for federal funds. So we like missed out on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of funding because we just didn't have a staff member who knew to even do that. And we're now catching up. So it's not that we lost the money forever, but we've had some problems in service because we weren't sort of properly staffed. So here's sort of like my framing for some of the, during the public comment period, you're welcome to say anything you want, but some ideas for things that I would love to hear is if you have specific comments on the report, that's super helpful. If you just have experience with transportation services and you want to share that, that's also great. And then also just like suggestions for either like you see gaps or specific suggestions for how to improve services in the county. All of that stuff is super helpful. And I also mentioned if you want to add to the points of interest, and the idea is that we'll kind of collect all of these comments. They kind of go into our planning process, and then the committee will reconvene to sort of update the report and then ultimately build that into like the 2023 transportation plan. So the last slide is just, you're here, March 15th. Thanks for coming. There's going to be a meeting on the 28th that will be 100% virtual, and then also people can submit comments by email. So this isn't the last chance to get feedback. So with that, I just wanted to open it up, and I'd love to hear people's thoughts, people's comments.
Donald Collins, Supervisor, Town of Chatham.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I appreciate all your effort. I would love to see, service lines coming up to the village of Chatham. We have an ambulatory community there with an aging ambulatory community and a couple of facilities on the Ghent side of the village of Chatham, which I'd love to see them be able to access the services in Hudson that are provided down here. And I agree with you about a centralized employee to kind of direct, because I've called Claire for someone. They said, no, we're booked. It's just too short a notice. And I've called Kevin, and wait, maybe Bob will have somebody. And it'd be nice to just have the central authority to be able to kind of direct and oversee. And other than that, I'll try to get some written comments in support of your programs and in support of expansion of some of the more rural areas within the county by your deadline. Is the deadline for written comments the 28th? Or
I think we'll keep it for another week after that. So it's like April 5th.
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank everyone who participated in this from the town of Chatham. I appreciate it.
Great, thanks.
I'm not going to be the only one. Step forward.
I'll just introduce myself.
Yeah.
Kristen Beatty. I'm here from Alliance for Positive Health.
Great.
I am our program manager for our medical transportation program. So I mean, some gaps that we're seeing, we just started using Uber Health. So we cover 17 counties all the way up to Plattsburgh. So it's great in Albany County, but we can't find drivers down here, obviously. So it's not very useful. We have had a client out in Malaysia that's used it once, but then when we tried to book the return trip home, it didn't work because there was no drivers at that time. So, always looking for transportation for our clients. We have a lot of them that are living out in Chatham and, you know, areas that they don't have transportation. So that's why we're here. And we do have the medical transportation program. It's only for folks who are HIV positive. And then we also have health home staff who, anybody who has Medicaid can sign up, and we can set up their medical transportation for them. So we kind of do that. But we are seeing gaps with the cab companies and things like that. And it's only medical transportation. So it's not helping our clients get to, you know, pharmacy trips and things like that.
And where are you based out of?
Well, we have an office here in Hudson, but we are based, our main office is up in Albany. So.
Well, thanks for coming and sharing that. That's really helpful to have. And thanks for the transportation that you're trying to provide.
And I wasn't in any way maligning calling you last minute and saying you didn't have a driver. It was like the same day, just so you know.
Oh, no worries. I mean, you know, I've spoken about this before. I mean, we have, you know, we operate at capacity, so there is more demand than we can fulfill, and that's for strictly medical, non-emergency medical transportation. So, you know, we're very aware that residents have needs far beyond that for employment support, social support, you know, you name it, just, you know, grocery shopping and, you know, et cetera. So there's, you know, I think my colleague Jim Funk would agree with me. There's just an insufficient amount of transportation generally provided by both the public and private sectors considered in total. And our audience is principally 60 plus. So we provide 88% of our service delivery is to individuals age 60 and older. 80% of our trips are to individuals age 60 and older. And as we know, based on the demographic projections, that population is only going to increase and therefore so will the demand. So we have, you know, we've been for several years very focused on expanding our capacity, but frankly, we have insufficient support, financial support to do that, even at our current levels of service delivery. So that's a real challenge, is finding other sources of revenues for service for all delivery.
Yeah, it's a really valuable service. Yeah, anything else? Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you coming out and sharing your thoughts. And I guess encourage people to either join the 28th or submit written comments by the end of the month. That'd be great. Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing.